we are. Good thing is the water level's low, but I don't think the ice is thick enough for me to successfully walk on here. So. What are you doing? Remy, it's cold. Oh yeah, that's the stick you're looking for, the one underwater. Couldn't be any of these sticks. Well, we're out here watching my crazy dog run through the water, but we're out here in the maple forest, or the sugar bush, as many people call it, where all the maple trees are, and this is where we collect the majority of our sap. And I'm going to get out here today and do a good collection. Most of these buckets are probably filled or overflowing, I'm assuming, just based on the ones that are up by the house and how they performed yesterday. And so today we'll also get a little bit of a run, and throughout the next week or two, it's going to be every couple days. It looks like we're going to be getting good runs. So we're going to be getting a lot of sap, but this part of my property is still flooded. This is part of the property that is connected to a county drain, and I have to get permission from them specifically to dig in that county drain. They told me I could dig any trenching I needed to off the property into the drain that's already there, but they generally contract that work out, and it goes on our taxes and things like that if they want to get that cleaned out. And so I have to speak with them and get permission to actually go through and do any work in that ditch to drain this whole entire forest, which is still my goal. And I will be talking with them soon as the weather starts to dry out a little bit here. So let's get out and collect some sap and see how much we get. I've already got 5 gallons that I collected last night. So we've got 5 gallons in there. I'll show you how I keep track of sap collection each day and my boil totals and how much syrup we get out of it and all that kind of stuff, just to see, you know, what kind of ratios I'm getting from sap to syrup and things like that, and keep track of those things. So I'll show you how I do that, and we'll get out and get some sap collected. So let's get to work. So generally what I do is I've got this 6-gallon bucket that I take around with me, and I just dump the sap into that, and then I haul that up to the truck. I'm not worried too much about cleanliness at this point. I mean, there's going to be little bits of bark and sticks and other things, wood chips from when I drilled the holes and other things that get in the sap at this point, and that's fine. This is a rough collection. We're going to get everything into the tank, and then we'll filter it before we put it in the boiler. And the hardest part sometimes is aiming. So this bucket, it's a 6-gallon bucket if you go all the way to the top. But this line right here is, I don't want to go any higher than that, because otherwise I just end up spilling most of it out as I carry it. And so this is about 5 gallons right here. So I use that as a judge. This is about a gallon right in here, and this is about 5 gallons. So that's how I totaled up. That was a 4-gallon bucket. It came down in the bucket to right about there. So it's all estimating. I just round up or down, just kind of guesstimate where it's at. And that's how I keep track of how much sap I'm bringing in. Well, the ice is holding up so far out there. I may try to move this tap. There's nothing in here. And I definitely could throw another tap in here, but unless this tree's dead. So one of the questions I get every year is, do you throw out the ice? A lot of these buckets had went through a couple cold nights, maybe 2 days ago, and so there was some sap in the bottom that froze. What I like to do is leave the ice in the bucket. So if I can just crack the lid, you know, just a little bit, and let the sap run out into my collection bucket and then keep the ice in there, that'll help keep the sap cool over the next day or two. But I guess there's a controversy about whether is this just pure water or is there some sap in here. Now, I'm not convinced that if you have a bucket and it gets down to 20 degrees overnight, and let's say it's got, you know, this much sap in the bottom, I've seen that freeze, you know, almost completely overnight. And so I feel like a lot of sap is still trapped in here. Now, maybe the sap, you know, the temperature of the sugary concentrated water would be, you know, freeze at a lower point. But I definitely think that there's a good possibility that there's still quite a bit of sap. I mean, there's you know, still has a lot of liquid in it. And so even though the ice around here might just be pure water, there's still a lot of sugar trapped in here. And so I always collect and boil the ice too. I figure, why not? But if I can leave that in there till tomorrow, it'll help keep the sap cool throughout the day. Today it's going to be almost 50. And so the cooler you can keep the sap, the longer the better. It'll be better syrup. So. That's 16 gallons that we've collected so far. And how I keep track of this, I have an app on my phone called OneNote. I use OneNote for just about everything I do out here on the farm to keep me organized and keep notes on things. It's basically a digital notebook that is, you know, you can use to organize yourself for anything. So I have a page in there for this year, this year's sap collection totals, and then I use that as I collect up here. I'll grab my phone, I'll type in the number that I've collected, and I just keep adding to that as I go around. Every once in a while I'll add up that total and keep putting it in there, and then at the end of the day I'll have a total of how much sap I collected. I also have when I put the taps out and how many taps and buckets that I have out per year, and so I can look at last year and compare performance between the two and see, you know, if I did better this year or worse this year. Now, there's a lot of factors there. Of course, weather plays the biggest part. Last year we had a really long season. This year it looks like it's going to be a pretty short season. So, but I can still go back and compare. I also try tapping different trees and things like that. And sometimes I'll put those notes in there too. It helps me stay organized and help keep making progress every year and keep getting better. All right, let's see what we got in the super tap tree. Not much. More than last time. This is a late runner here, this tree. Somebody on the last video said, "You have way too many taps in that tree." I know. It's for those of you who have not followed along last week, this is a test to see if we'll kill the tree. This is a tree I'm going to cut down in the spring anyway. I'm going to be digging drainage through here hopefully, and so I need to take these two trees out. So I figured why not tap it as many times as possible. It has 8 taps in it, and it's probably only less than 18 inches in diameter here. So I have a feeling that it's gonna suffer. I don't know if it'll kill it or not, but we'll find out. Well, I was able to get some of the stuff up by the road and up by the house collected. I have a few bigger trees out there that produce pretty good. So we got up to 75 gallons today. So we got about 44 gallons on the last collection. We got 75 this time. And things will start to ramp up this week. Temperature's going to spike, and once we get up to a 50-degree day, a nice and sunny day, especially once a lot of that ice melts, I feel like that ice is keeping the roots real cool. The sap does have to be kept cool, so I can't leave it in this tank for much longer than about 48 hours, depending on the temperatures. It's going to get down into the low 30s tonight, so I think that'll be all right. As long as it stays below 40 degrees, kind of refrigerated temperatures, the sap will last a few days at least. So one of the most common comments that I get during maple syrup season is, why don't you do this, and why don't you do that, and why don't you get a reverse osmosis system, and why don't you run a vacuum system out in that forest to be perfect for that, and a lot of other things that people talk about. And the bottom line is this: I'm trying to run this as a business that is profitable, and there are some investments that I make each year. I spent about $60-70 on the evaporator this year. A couple years ago, I spent about $60-70 on the evaporator. I have to buy bottles, I have to buy filters, I have to buy taps and tubes and source buckets, and spend a lot of time and get tanks and other things. And so and try to do it in a way where I'm not just throwing thousands and thousands of dollars out there at the maple syrup process, where maybe I only make $1,000 a year on this. And so as I ramp things up and as I invest more money, things will scale up, but I'm trying to do this slowly and smart. If this doesn't end up being profitable, if I have to give this a few years before I just jump in and start investing thousands of dollars. A vacuum system with the tubing and the clamps and the wire and the new taps and other things that we need to run, plus a vacuum pump and stainless steel tanks. I mean, you're talking $4, $5, $6, $7, even $8,000 if you really want to do it right, building a shack or something to house it out there by the forest and all that stuff. So it's a big investment, and so I have to be careful and scale it slowly. So that's the plan anyway. Not that I don't appreciate all the ideas, but I definitely want to do all those things. Hopefully I can get permission to drain that swamp back there, drain the maple forest. I have to get permission from the county, and I'll work on that, and I'll take you guys along, of course, for all those things. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the quick update on how I collect sap. There'll be more of this coming up, and more boils, and more maple syrup. Don't forget to hit thumbs up on today's video, and if you have not subscribed to the SSL Family Dad channel, what are you waiting for? Hit that button down below that says subscribe on it, and click that bell next to it to allow notifications so that you know when we post new videos. Love to have you tag along for all that we're doing here. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Remy, what are you doing? What are you doing? Remy, it's cold. Oh yeah, that's the stick you're looking for, the one underwater. Couldn't be any of these sticks.